Hi, everyone, and welcome to a VanHack podcast. My name is Ilya, and I'm super excited today to be joined by Aydin, who is the CEO at Fellow.ai. Hey, Aydin, how's it going?
Great. Great to be here.
Awesome. Fellow is a really fast-growing tech startup out of Ottawa, Canada, and has been a VanHack customer for a few years now. So I'm really excited to interview you and hear your thoughts on all about tech hiring. Let's jump in. Aydin, do you mind just giving us a quick intro? Just the Cole's notes about Fellow and yourself.
Sure. So Fellow is an AI chief of staff for your meetings. It helps you before the meetings, make sure you prep, help you run the meetings, and then do all of the things such as summarizing the meeting, grabbing tasks and decisions, and keeping everybody on the same page. So the way that we like to talk about Fellow is when you hire Fellow and it starts working at your company. It basically increases accountability across the board. Everybody walks out of meetings knowing exactly what they need to do. Fellow makes sure that you actually do those things. It helps you keep other systems up to date. It'll update your CRM, help you update your wiki and your task management system. And then my favorite part is just like a great chief of staff would, it brings you insight. So you can ask it questions like, what are the biggest opportunities in my company right now? Or what are the biggest problems?
Mm.
And it'll give you answers to those sorts of questions. Or, hey, based on my last week, give me some coaching advice on how I could be a better manager or leader. Or, create a status report so that I can send that to my manager as an example. So it's this super powerful thing that and it's been a transformation for Fellow, and so there's a lot more for us to do. But that's the idea. We want to be that AI chief of staff that every company in the world hires and uses, and hopefully that adds to the productivity of companies everywhere.
Very cool. And just jump into tech hiring. How long ago did you start the company? What did the kind of initial tech team look like? And then how's it scaled and grown over time?
Yeah, so we started the company. I mean, the first version of our product went live in 2019. This was pre-AI, and then in the last 2 years, we pivoted the company, as you know, into being an AI first company. And so we basically reinvented everything, reinvented the product, the roadmap,
Hmm.
the go-to-market motion, the pricing, and then also, basically the team as well, and just like how the organization works. And so we reinvented all of that. Obviously, we're a tech company, and so it's all about like we have a very large proportion of engineers. And so, yeah, tech hiring is obviously like core to the company. The better the talent that we have, the more the odds of our success.
For sure, for sure. And do you have a technical co-founder, like as a CEO? How do you go about building that MVP back in 2019?
Yeah, so for sure, I do have two technical co-founders. So Amin and Sam are my co-founders for Fellow, but they were also my co-founders for my last company too.
Mhm.
So we've worked together for probably 15 years or so,
Wow.
across three different companies, building five different products. So yeah, I mean they're amazing at what they do, and for sure they were the ones who built the first MVP.
Got it. And then, so when you got that initial product market fit and you're looking out to, add a few people to the tech team, what were some strategies that you used that you found worked well? Kind of how did you add to the first kind of engineering hires outside of the founding team?
Yeah, so the first few hires were definitely people that we knew. So we reached out to some of the same network people who we had worked with before. Um, and we basically recruited some of those same people to join Fellow. So we had Alexandra and who's still at Fellow. We also had Nate, who was at Fellow for some time. So yeah, we basically tapped into some of the old network for the first few hires, and yeah, and then obviously just standard way of hiring, so job postings, interviewing candidates. And what I will say about the original hires is that we really, I think not everybody is a startup person.
Mm,
So you have to look for startup people for the first few hours. It's really important that you look for startup people. And the key thing that I learned is just because someone used to be a startup person doesn't mean that they continue to be a person. Some people grow out of it. By the way, none of this is either good or bad. It's just you need a special type of person to be a startup person. And it's the type of person that loves to experiment, doesn't really care about defined functions, loves ambiguity, loves the challenge of it, loves chaos to a certain extent.
mm.
So it's a special type of personality, and it's possible that you had it once before, and then some people just grow out of it, and they don't want to do that kind of work anymore. And so it's really important to look for that in the first 10 to 20 hires.
Very cool. Interesting. How does someone grow out? Like, what are some signs maybe that someone's, maybe they're leaving the office at 3 o'clock or something? Like, what's the?
No, it's not even about that. Like I think so. Obviously, startups are more work. There's no question. But it's not even necessarily that. It's once you work at a larger company for a long enough time, you just the type of work you do narrows, right? So
Mm,
all of a sudden you're more specialized. A lot of the things around you are taken care of, and you start to think about your job in these kind of like defined boxes. Whereas, as you know, in a startup where there's only 10 people, as an example, you can't really do that. Like, there is no such thing. I mean, there's some responsibility, but
mhm,
it's more about what is the job to be done and what is it that I can do and jump in and do it. And it doesn't matter who's has what title. I mean, titles actually are a roadblock, I would say,
mm.
at a small company. And we avoided them very specifically for the first 25, 30 hires. We had no titles
Oh, wow.
across the board.
Never heard of that before. So,
Yeah, I think it's extremely limiting when you say that I'm
huh.
this or I'm that. All of a sudden, it just, it kind of brings into question, well, what's my responsibility and what's yours? And again, as the company gets bigger, that stuff is important. Or you start thinking about things like, oh, he's senior and I'm not, and therefore we should
Mm,
take his point of view. But a lot of what we do in startups is all about discovery, challenging the norms. Sometimes knowing things and experience can actually hold you back too. So a lot of startups is about unlearning the past. I mean, the whole point of a startup is to challenge the norm, right? To
right.
challenge the status quo. And challenging the status quo by definition means not doing things that were done before or doing things in a different way. So unlearning is actually a very important part. So knowledge and expertise is good, but you have to make sure that it doesn't get in the way. So it also requires a type of person that's okay with that kind of a notion.
I see. Yeah, I like that point about what you said earlier about being very specialized and kind of only focusing on what you do when you get into a bigger company. But people generally knew when you didn't have titles. People generally knew like this is the tech team, obviously, and people had their kind of areas. It just maybe was implicit, or how did people kind of understand what needs to be done? Or
Yeah, for example, a marketing hire isn't going to be able to code.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
these days you
yeah,
can.
right.
When we started the company, maybe not. Yeah, so there's a general sense of, oh, she works in marketing, and he's a developer, but that's about it. But in terms of who does what and who's in charge of like this area or that area, we very specifically avoided that.
I see.
Or titles like senior developer or staff engineer, and like these sorts of things specifically avoided that.
And so how did you like add them on later? This is so interesting. Like, did you just kind of say, Monday morning, hey, we all have titles now? Like, that must have been an interesting evolution or like
Yeah. So
transition.
I think all of these things are complexities and they add noise, right? And anything that's a complexity that adds noise introduces friction that reduces speed in a startup.
Huh.
So anything that you can avoid doing, all of these things have a purpose. And this is the tricky thing, right? You can't just copy and paste what other companies do and then just assume that, well, everybody does it, so we should do it. You kind of have to question, well, why? What is the purpose of a title? Like, what
Mhm.
does it do? The most important thing that it does is it helps with the um, figuring out like what the responsibilities within an organization and so on and so forth. But it also has bad things in that, okay, those are your responsibilities and these are mine, and therefore I might not cross into that sort of area. So we just questioned it. At some point, though, the team got large enough that we had to solve things like career progression. So, for
Right.
example, I've been here for 3 years and I've been working on this and I've been
Mm,
crushing it in my role. So, what does career progression look like for me? And so, once we started having those sorts of problems to solve or jobs to be done within the company, then we started to layer on, a career progression framework, and along with that came titles and things like that. But before that, it was all noise.
mm,
So we didn't want that stuff.
very cool. Yeah, I might have to steal that or like think about how we can use that in maybe the next company that we do.
Yeah. And by the way, it also, another reason people want this stuff is ego
Yeah,
and look, I'm like this, and I was this at my last company, and I got hired as like this super fancy role.
right.
Um, and we specifically wanted to avoid that because we just wanted people who were super low ego, weren't about any of that kind of stuff, and just wanted to get in and build. And again, it just takes a special type of person. And that's the stuff that worked for us. And so those were the specific sorts of traits that we were looking for.
Hmm.
And it's all a test, Ilya, right? So people come in and you're like, this is how we operate.
Right.
And either they're drawn towards that or they're not, but
Yeah.
it makes you want to know that up front.
I could see being a good litmus test for culture for sure. Did you have anything similar to that? Anything else that comes to mind that was kind of a culture test that maybe either you did explicitly in the company or that you looked for when you were hiring tech talent?
Yeah, so we had we had tests that we would get. A lot of this stuff has changed with AI, by the way. Uh, it's so funny when ChatGPT 3.5 came out. I was like, I don't think our test is valid anymore. This thing can do our test. So, but yeah, we used to have those tests in the early days, and now we have different versions of it, much more kind of like live interaction and live problem solving.
Right.
But yeah, back in the day, we gave people tests, and the tests were solved for two things. One was we just wanted to see how fast people could learn a new technology. And the second thing it would test for is do they go above and beyond? So the test itself is not something that's like impossible to solve, but you can tell how people approach it. Like some people just do the task and they do exactly what's said and do the bare minimum. And then some people go above and beyond and they do all sorts of things that, definitely weren't part of the description. So one of the things that we did was we purposely made the instructions vague and just to see how people would approach it and how would they go above and beyond and how much above and beyond.
Hmm.
And when you do this with a bunch of different people, you can start to see, oh, so and so's test was way better than like this other person's test, and this person's test was so epic, and they were hired and they just are crushing it in the role. And
Hmm.
so you start to kind of calibrate with that sort of thing. But that applied not just to developers, to all areas of the company. We always had tests. And the test was never something that was impossible to do. Like most people can do those tests, but what we look for is how much love is poured into doing that test. And that was kind of like an indication of, you know, can this person thrive in this role? Are they going to go above and beyond? And you know how it is. Sometimes you bring people on the team and you ask them to do this small thing, and they go off, and while they're doing that, they find 10 other things that are wrong, and they fix all of those along the way, and they come back. Not only have they done that one thing, but they've just figured out all this other stuff.
Hmm.
And I mean, what would be amazing if your company was nothing but people like that? And so startups are so hard. Like they are the most difficult thing ever. It
Yeah.
is like you're fighting gravity every single day. Everything is against you. You're being contrarian. People disagree with you all the time. And what you're trying to do every single day is fight gravity and just to get to that escape velocity. So when you
Mm.
have everything going against you, what you need to do, the only thing you can do is just try and increase the odds at every step. And so there's a lot of thought that has gone into this, and some people may say, "Oh, those are weird conditions that you're looking for during hiring." But when you start to think about it, as most startups have a, I don't know, 1% chance of success to be, or a chance to become a, $100 million, $1 billion revenue company. And
Hmm.
if you want to get there, you just have to optimize everything. Like every little percentage point of probability to add to your ability to succeed matters.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I want to be respectful of your time here as we're kind of getting close to the end. Maybe just like one tip you can give to other founders and CEOs who are looking to hire some tech talent, something maybe you wish you knew in the start of your journey.
Yeah. So, I think, yeah, the most important thing is, I mean, again, if I'm talking to other startups, what I would say is don't be too impressed by some like a fancy company name
Mm,
in someone's title, or don't be impressed by, oh my God, that person was working at this company when they grew from like this milestone to that milestone and they got to see all of those sorts of things. Not to say that those people can't be impressive, but don't be impressed because of that.
right.
Because a lot of times it's just they were there along for the ride. And a lot of times, like, what's more impressive is people who've worked at no-name companies, or companies that people don't recognize and have done amazing things there. So drill down to the skill set. And part of the reason for this is, as a startup, you're looking for every advantage, right? So you're almost looking for undiscovered talent
Mm,
in a very competitive world. So you just have to get really good at identifying that talent. And then to the founders, I would say go with your gut instinct on what makes the culture of your company. Interview every person. I mean, certainly the first 100 people in the company,
yeah.
because like this is the thing that matters the most, and there's not very many things that come close to the founder's gut instinct on
Mm,
being able to make these kinds of decisions. So sometimes it's not about logic. Sometimes it's about I just don't have the right feeling about this person joining the team, and I can't fully explain it, but something doesn't feel right. And yeah, and then just being okay with that, and just tuning that sense of gut feeling on hires is incredibly important. And then eventually, once you're past 100 people, you can create even more process, because at that point it doesn't scale. But
yeah.
it's so important, and it's that important that you should interview the first 100.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think there was a famous thing with Brian Chesky doing something similar to that, and look where Airbnb got to. Awesome, Aiden. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate your time. And where can people reach you or check out Fellow?
Yeah, so Fellow is just Fellow.ai. And if people are looking to, I also have a podcast around just using AI in your day to day. People have transformed their companies using AI. So that you can find on YouTube. It's called This New Way.
Hmm.
The idea being like there's a new way of working. And so we bring people on who show you, like literally show you what they're doing, share their screens, and then show you how they're using AI to transform their work, their teams, their company.
Nice. We'll put all that in the show notes. And yeah, thanks so much, Aiden, again, and we'll have a great day.
All right. Thanks for having me.